It is indeed your show about individuals who do extraordinary things. Yes, you guessed it right. It is Stories Untold. I am Pule Mulebati, back again this week with your weekly dose of positive and uplifting news. I'm bringing our show today from Shalom House of Refuge right here in Rosettenville, Johannesburg. This is a place where men and women come here to get a sense of belonging. After all, it is what home is all about. They are doing this with the hope of rebuilding their lives under the care of Margaret.
Nothing is attractive about the lives of those in the streets, those that are desperate for the next fix. Today, we meet Margaret, a woman who looks at this with a different heartfelt approach.
Margaret is Margaret Ntombise Sikulu from the rural Eastern Cape, born in a place called Catcat. Grew up there on a farm with my parents and a lot of my siblings, 6 of my siblings, and a lot of other people, other children from families, extended families and relatives and people that I didn't even know. I got into the career of nursing. That was in East London, in Frere Hospital. I was really a very good nurse. But my problem was, Nhlanhla, I was attached, emotionally attached to my patients. I could not make out the difference between a sick person and a person who's just my friend who's there to live. So when my patients died, I would be the first one to cry. So these were red flags that I could not survive in the nursing field.
What does a woman do when the one thing she has been longing for starts demanding attention? Margaret knew she had to do something about it.
Not by force.
I never found satisfaction. There was always a hole within me, a longing within me, something that I could not feel, because I always found myself very comfortable amongst the needy, the displaced, the strange people that people do not want to associate with.
Her longing, one to be filled by the compassion she had at the sight of those destitute, finally got her attention. When many vacate the streets of Joburg to go home in the early evening, to some, it is finally quiet enough to go to sleep in a city that never sleeps. This morning, we follow Margaret as she visits the streets of Joburg yet again. She comes here at least twice a week to attract the men and women who have made the streets their home. She persuades them to pursue a new lifestyle, to change and find a new lease in life.
Our center is called Shalom House of Refuge. All right. What we do, we deal with drug addicts, particularly those that live in the streets, like Lishonolo and the rest. What we do, we make it our duty that almost every day we visit them in the various hotspots where they group themselves together. Unfortunately today, they can't group themselves there because of the rain. So we show face to them, we give courage, we pick them up on Thursdays for support groups.
Lihlohonolo, a man who has had enough of the wet and cold nights on the streets, rose this morning with hope for change. After Margaret successfully helped him with his application for rehab admission, today he finally goes to Shalom House of Refuge.
great because like she's into ebemhlala ngizoyisha ukuthi siwathola abantu abafana nomama kanje ukuthi abazosiza because le nto besiyiphilayo la is not worth it really for thina yabo ayisifanele but sigcine singena kuyo.
I've been speaking to Shonolo for almost a year, since last year, persuading him to go to rehab, but he has been ducking and dodging. Until this time this year, he came himself and said, Mama, take me to rehab. Shonolo opened his jacket pocket. He had a crisp paper there. He had a phone number of Palisa, his sister. I called Palisa. Palisa, it was like she was waiting for my phone call.
Sometimes I can't even sleep at night because he has possibility at least I have a roof above my head. I wonder about like it's this quote, I get saved, stuff like that. So that's a thing about
With my sister, anything I show my man, angazi express my feelings 1 minute. We used to do many things. Like
As the taxi ride takes off, so begins their journey to change.
in our lives.
Welcome back to the show. It is indeed Stories Untold. Remember, you can find us on social media by simply using the hashtag Stories Untold SABC to share those incredible, amazing stories of individuals that do extraordinary things. It could be you, so feel free to share yours as well. And who knows, we might feature you on the show. Today, my temporary home is Shalom House of Refuge right here in Rosettenville, Johannesburg. Right now, we speak to Margaret about running a home like this, the sacrifices she had to make. And later on in this very segment, we hear from an individual who reaped the rewards of taking that leap and opening themselves up to getting help.
Some are new to this and others have been here before. Margaret holds a weekly support group session. There is an atmosphere of anticipation as they walk towards Shalom House. There, they are welcomed by those who were once in the streets but have now made Shalom House their home.
When they walk with me that distance without complaining, to me, that gives me the satisfaction of a lifetime. Every problem has got an expiry date and it has got a starting time. Okay? You have started now. You don't just figure out because we are on trainers of figure. All right, guys? If you say for school is like a disease, but when you addiction, you want to stop it on your own, but you can't. So this is why your mind. So if we admit that I've got a problem, that's why I'm so happy, because you guys are admitting that you've got a problem. Something you've never discussed again.
Lihlohonolo and his counterparts now find themselves in the warmth of a house of refuge, and the first thing they receive is counseling about the journey they are embarking on.
Solution yokuqala yokunqoba yona le addiction ukuthi uadmit ukuthi upowerless over addiction.
Indawo lena ndifumene ngontombazana ekwakuthiwa nguYvonne endiyaziyo ne ndandifuna indawo to house these people endaweni engathi noko izaba likhaya like. Because into endiye understand ukuthi xa bebuya rehab besuke from the harsh conditions abakuzo babe comfortable endaweni elikhaya bafumane futhi a sort of a reward ukuthi what they have done is also noticeable. So you've won one funela lendlu wanikeza and ndiyayirenta from her. The affordability part is a bit tricky, because when I tell people that I don't know what is going to happen next, I just wait and pray. People think that I'm crazy because I don't have sponsors. I only have a few people, individuals, who, when they see, because they are led and they feel that they see my vision and they see what I'm doing, and then they don't contribute. Otherwise, there's no permanent or static sponsor. What we do when they come from rehab, we make them stay here for 3 to 6 months. And after that, they leave. Provided we see that they are in a position, understand? But the only special cases, as we go to okay, law, maybe it's an orphan, well, most of them the orphans, and then the Funuba developer until this and the end result, by schooling or I'm of money, then they stay longer. Right now, I'm under Pagulindu by 7. By bayazimaintainela ngokwabo. They don't have anybody who cleans. They clean for themselves. I only come to supervise occasionally to see if the place is thoroughly clean. But if ndiyabona ngabafana phela bangabantu ngamakhwenkwe abantu abangamadoda apho, if ndiyabona noko khona into ezingakliniki incama, nami ndiyafika ndiclean.
Those who have completed rehab have now become her trusted soldiers in the work that she does.
I take them to the streets in those seven's and abo because I want to train them as ambassadors of my vision. Ngabo abantu endifuna carry this vision further. Noma sendingasekho emhlabeni bay understand it better. So for them to understand, ayizophelela kimi, they need to see it and act it.
Margaret explains how some of the home's residents have come to be there.
Happy I picked him up from the street Gauteng Commissioner, not far from where we were in 2016. Happy, first of all, that is not his name, it's the name that we've given him. And then he was using drugs, and I took him to Kalinen, Dr. FNF. He finished his rehab. When he finished his rehab, he had nowhere to go. I took him. Was ohlala nathi, and he has been with us. Problem is, social development nayo izamile ukusinceda. Happy can't write, he can't talk, he can't do any sign language. Akakwazi nokwenza sign language. So akukho umuntu omaziyo kahle kahle ukuthi Happy ngubani. So that's the name esimnikeze lona.
Akakwazi ubhala.
Akakwazi ubhala. Akakwazi ufunda. Akakwazi ukwenza sign language. And then somebody was sent by social development ukuthi am-assess ukuthi na angeke afundiswe i-sign language na. But the report was that ubekade eyazi sign language wayilahla esitratweni ngendaba yama-drugs. So ukumfundisa ngoku is impossible sekamdala. Sabelo Mthembu comes from Davidton, naye ndimazi from 2016. But the problem kaSabelo uyile e-rehab kaningi. Uthi sekabuyile e-rehab asubstitute ngotywala. Athi angaqala utywala abuyele back ema-drugsini. But this time he made a decision. Wazongifuna wathi mama ngise e-rehab, I don't want to go back there. Sekana 6 months manje ekulo eclean manje engakanga substitute enganto uhlala yedwa kuSabelo azenzilela umsebenzi wakhe wezandla thanda ukuthunga kakhulu because uSabelo is an orphan yakhuliswa ngugogo wakhe makhulu wakhe amshongo uye kwamfundisa ukuthunga.
Icale ngisasemncane shuthi ugogo kamamami bekanomshini, so every time kade ngithanda ukudlalela ngasemshinini wakhe ngicabanga ukuthi ngicabanga ukuthi into engizalwe nayo and into irana naku family because every time kade athanda ukungithethisa for ukuthi why ngidlalela ngasemshinini. And then ngithe base ngicede ugrade 12 ngahamba ngaye esikoleni sokuthunga azange ngikhona ukuceda because of ama challenges aselifeini.
So ndabona this time ake ndomfunela isikolo ayenze official and abe ne piece of paper nokuthi akwazi umarketa ngayo. We found a college that is willing ukuthi register uSabelo enze le fashion designing yakhe khona uzoqala ngo February, but the registration fee yakhe 500. The whole course ayikho mahala is 7,000. But 500 sizoyibhadala, we still have time until February next year.
I'm grateful for Margaret because uyasinceda and akasipheleli inhliziyo, even if noma abanye abajita like ba relapse, but still usaba welcome back lana and siswa uye nasesikolweni. Abanye abajiti abazamela like nomsebenzi ukuthi bahambe bayosebenza engabe ufuna ukuthi akubusele ekhaya uyakhona ukureunite ne-family yakho.
Welcome back to the show. As we head towards the end of our program today, we are reminded once again of the biggest life lessons that it doesn't matter how many times you fall in life. What matters is how you get up, and that the most certainty of life is its uncertainty. And that's what our guest today in this particular segment reminds us of.
If we know what a business plan is, then tell me who needs a business plan. A business is like it's like a car.
They say hardship is the best teacher. Like Sabelo, many of Margaret's success stories do find their way back to society and family. Through Margaret's help, Sfiso left the streets, went back to university, and today he is teaching others.
Usfiso Nziba, ubuya el-Sikisiki, comes from the Sikisiki Usfiso, and I think is the youngest Ubolaba. He was born in 1995. Sfiso bekasebhayi Nelson Mandela esenza i-BCom accounting. Waqala
Nelson Mandela University.
University, yes. Waqala uSfiso ebhayi wayuza ama-drugs. Loo nto leyo yamfeyilisa, wasuka ebhayi waza apha. And umama ke ngenamntu bese-support system yakhe, ne? Ndiyacinga njenge-last born kowabo. So xa efika apha uSfiso wafika wahlala kwezo ndawo behlala kuzo until waze wathekwa eBree Street ngabantu. Wazibona sekalimele, wacaba ngoku unomdla uyeka nama-drugs because uyabona ukuthi his life is in danger eJohannesburg and akayiqhelanga. So somebody referred him to me, ndadibana naye eHillbrow. And ndikhalela, please mama, sendihlala estrateni, ndise-rehab, and I could see that clean. He was very clean. Nam ndabona ngumntana lo into ezawenzeka, he's gonna get worse. So ndakhawulezisa ndamsa e-rehab eBrakpan. Wafika lapho, he finished his treatment. Ubuya wakhe, that was last year. Ndamfunela somebody to sponsor him, register AUJ. Wayifumana indawo e-UJ, wafunda uSfiso again.
When you are on the streets, there are very few chances that you don't take drugs, because most definitely you will need something that's gonna take your mind away from the reality, because being on the streets is not easy, like sleeping with the cardboards and the plastics and, you know, just walking around like a headless chicken, not knowing where you're going, how you're gonna get food and all that. So you definitely need to have something that's gonna keep you going. So I was on drugs.
Margaret depends on those who can give the likes of Little Honolo, Sabelo, and Sfiso an opportunity to rebuild their lives.
Sfiso is a young, talented person who has a vision. And you wouldn't even think that he has gone through what he has gone through. Because when I talk to him, you would see a matured person who is driven and who has a courage and who loves what he's doing. That's what I could say about Sfiso, and that is motivating. He's a very positive person, which is another thing, because you'd expect somebody from the background that he's coming from. You'd expect somebody who's depressed. He's not depressed. He's just a driven person who makes you feel that I want to help this child because he's got a vision.
Uspongile, she runs an accredited school ekuthiwa Health Destination. So Spongile, I spoke to Spongile. Spongile took uSfiso, trained as a facilitator, or facilitator kwesa sikolo sika Spongile in business studies.
The way we're affiliated with Shalom House of Refuge is because of my interest in post-rehabilitated individuals, because there is no dustbin for a human being. The reason why I got interested was there is a way that I could help, because I'm in skills development, and these kids, they don't have anything to do. They've lost hope. And who wants to help somebody who's on drugs? Because there's always a stigma. He's on drugs, I don't trust, he's going to steal and all that. So for me, I know when they go to rehabilitation center, if there's somebody who can give them hope, because all they need is hope. And when you absorb them, you have something that you can give them, like a skill, definitely they will be back to normal.
Love is a universal language and can be heard and understood even on the streets, in the harsh and cold weather conditions. For those she can't take home, she brings home to them through her weekly soup kitchen visits.
We have brought a soup kitchen, as we usually do, to the children who live in the streets. Those children who have left their homes for various reasons, for drug addiction, for abuse, gender-based violence, or domestic violence. So we usually come here as Shalom House of Refuge as frequent as possible to feed them. Not because we want to encourage them to live in the streets, but just to show that love. But we still want them, we still love them despite their circumstances.
Margaret, she even helps us beyond help.
the word itself, you understand? Sekaziweqile. So uyasilethela ukudla every week, every now and then sidle. So like she's a mom. Like she makes me feel like njengomntwana kuye. She makes me feel like myself. She makes me ngizazi mina ukuthi ngubani. Like self-esteem yami it's low, yes, but she makes it comes up.
The challenges that we meet is that these children are all over, particularly the addicts. So when you come, they are busy, they are by a they're trying to get scrap to go and sell to smoke. So you must gather them from each and every corner. And the girls, which are, the girls which bother me the most, they live in dilapidated buildings. So you must leave them, go and fetch them from those dilapidated buildings in the outskirts of this place for them to come and have something to eat. And they really are hungry and they are cold.
For Margaret, this is just the beginning.
This is a very broad-based vision because this homelessness, this addiction, this gender-based violence, abuse of women and children is a national thing. It's like a genocide. So I don't want to be confined to the streets of Johannesburg or Pretoria. I want to go countrywide.
In Margaret's case, it only took a willing heart to start. And today, her story is evidence that through one person at a time, change is inevitable.
As we conclude our show today from Shalom House of Refuge, I'd like to take this moment to remind you once again that there are many people out there that are fighting wars that we know nothing of. So next time when we interact with one another, let us exercise a little bit more kindness. From myself, Pule Mulabati, and the rest of the team, goodbye.